What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Dig It podcast. I'm your host, Drew Walsh, and today we got Coach Julius Gaines in the house of Ground Up Baseball, currently traveling across the nation. We happened to catch him on his pit stop to Miami. Coach Julius, man, we've been conversating back and forth through social media for years now, and dude, I've been a fan for a minute, so I'm excited to have you on Talk Shop. If you could, you've been in baseball for a while. Just please introduce yourself, where your passion started, and how you got to where you're at today.
Oh yeah, man, for sure. Like you said, name is Julius Gaines. My passion started. I started playing ball when I was like 3, man, and it was kind of weird because nobody in my family really played. My dad was a runner, sister ran track, uncles ran track. Nobody was really ever baseball, but my dad being a big kid that he was, he always bought us everything. And so he was like, whatever I bought, you always found your way to some ball. You're playing with some balls. He's like, he got me a glove, and it kind of just took off from there. I told him when I was, like 6, I was like, I want to play pro ball. And he was like, you can, you just got to work harder than everybody. And I was
I
like, all
love
right,
it.
I can do that. Yeah, so I had like tunnel vision since then. I'm like, all right, that's the goal. But yeah, I played basketball coming up too. I kind of did that because it was off season. It was something to do. That was the exciting sport. In the neighborhood. Where I grew up,
Got to
baseball
keep
wasn't
the
that.
status real quick, and then in spring
Yeah,
go do your
man.
thing.
You know how it goes. So I did that. Kind of stay in shape, keep busy. Um, but yeah, man, baseball has always been a dream. All the way up into high school. That was my main focus. It started getting a little real for me. I would say junior year. That's when I started kind of popping up on some boards and stuff like that. And the summer going into my senior year is where everything really took off for me. Had a good summer, went to some big showcases, East Coast Pro, PG National, area codes, and I did really well. So I kind of, I was always a little dude, so I always say I got to
Awesome,
represent for the little guys, man. So
awesome.
it took me. I never had, your flashy tools and stuff like that. I always had the glove and stuff like that, but that was never considered a major tool. So me getting on the draft boards and climbing up the ranks was, me playing next to the guys that was highly ranked, or the eye candies of the world, and
Right.
I just had to outplay them. And so at those big showcases, that Jupiter, I was able to do that, and shot up the boards a little bit. Slated in to go in the top 3 rounds or so in 2011, which was not a good draft class to get drafted in. That draft class was loaded, man.
Remind me,
Um,
name a few players from that draft
bro,
class.
you pick Mookie,
Okay,
Lindor,
pretty good at
Javi
baseball.
Baez,
It's pretty good at
Jose
baseball.
Fernandez, Daniel Vogelbach, you name
So
it,
no
every
talent,
position.
no talent in that draft class.
Not too much, man. Not too much. But yeah, so I climbed up. I put myself in a good position, and then my shoulders didn't want to cooperate. So I've been
No,
plagued. Yeah, man, I've been plagued with shoulder injuries. Oof.
like labrum
Since
or
high school, man. Yeah, labor, both of them, dude. And the doctor told me like I had small sockets, so I was susceptible for them to slide in and out and stuff
right.
like that. So I was the number one shortstop in Georgia. I was number 2 in the. I was behind Lindor, so not
Damn!
bad
Shout
for
out
the
Lindor,
big
we're
thing
coming for
behind.
you. We're getting
Yeah,
shoulder
man.
surgery. We're coming for you.
So, but yeah, so I put myself in a good position. Then senior year, dislocated it, tore my labrum. Didn't know it. It's like you
Wow.
knew, but you didn't know. And I didn't want to get an MRI because you get that. That's going to the draft bureau. So I'm like, well, yeah, I'm not getting that checked. So I kind of stayed off of it for a month, tried to rehab a little bit, and it got back to normal. I was doing well. Was able to go to some pre-draft workouts and stuff like that, and did solid at those. And then quarterfinals, state playoffs, had a play in the hole. We was actually playing Matt Olson. Yeah, Parkview.
Damn.
Yeah, everybody know about Parkview. I think they top in the country right now. So we were playing them in the
Wow.
quarterfinals, and I had a ball hit in the hole, and I go and I backhand it, jump throw, Jeter throw. throw it on the dot, but my arm came out again. So
No,
this is
what hit the
yeah,
glove
bro.
first, your shoulder or the ball?
I don't know,
I'm
dude.
just
I
like,
just know it got there. It got there, bro. It got there.
God, man.
But yeah, man, this was like a less than a month before the draft. So I'm, freaking out at this point. I'm like, dude, I don't work this hard, trying to do all of this.
Wow.
And yeah, man. So I stayed off of it. I was lying to scouts where I couldn't make workouts, all-star games. I'm like, yeah, I got some family stuff I'm trying to take care of. And so draft day comes around. I missed all kinds of stuff, dude. Draft day comes around and I wasn't expecting to go in the first round, but I'm like, yeah, you never know what might happen.
Right.
Thankfully, it was quarterfinals. It was so close to draft day that most of the scouts weren't really out, so it was nobody at that game. Well, nobody that I know of at that game.
Right.
Um, so I'm like, well, maybe I still got a shot. Maybe they don't know. So draft day come around, first round go by. I'm seeing guys that I'm competing against. Like Javi was my roommate at East Coast Pro. So I'm seeing all these guys going the first round. I'm like, I might have a shot, but first round goes by, nothing. Supplemental goes by, no call. So the second day, back in 2011, it was still 50 rounds. So the second day was like the second round through the, I think, 31st or something like that. And the second day, I'm like, all right, this is my day. Like, I'm getting a call today. Bro, the whole day, second round, third round, fourth round, fifth round, just flying by. And I'm sitting
Oh,
here looking at my phone
man.
like I'm not getting nothing. And I'm at this point, I'm like, heartbroken. And second day goes by, and I'm just like fed up with the draft. I'm like, I done bust my butt. I know I'm better than a lot of these guys that's going before me. And so I'm like heartbroken. Third day come around, I'm like, I'm not watching. So I'm sitting in my living room and phone start buzzing. I look over and it's the Red Sox scout. And I'm like, my eyes perk up a little bit. And I picks up the phone and he's like, look, Julius, I know what happened. We know you didn't go where you wanted to go, whatever. But it was Boston. So Boston,
Sure.
they got a little paper. So they was like, we still might be able to give you what you want in the draft. It's like, we're gonna see you come. We're gonna come out, see you play a little bit, invite you out to one of the minor league teams, and work out with the team, take BP and stuff. So I'm like, I'm happy again. Granted, my arm is still on just by the skin,
Right.
but I'm like, what? Let's do it. Like I'm ready. So this is in was it June, like June 10th or June 5th or something like that. And so the whole summer goes by, and that same year, just two of the names. There was a handful of guys that got drafted, but two notable was Mookie was a 5th round pick that year, and Jackie Bradley got drafted to the Red Sox that year too.
Right.
And so they had some other guys that they had to pay. So Mookie, who everybody knows is a freakish athlete and
Yes.
everything, and baseball wasn't his first sport.
Dude, he
He
could
hoops.
bowl. He could do
Big
whatever.
hooper. Yeah, he's a bro, but he was like a hoop. He's a hooper, dude. Like Mookie
Right.
can hoop. And so he had I don't know how, I never heard of anybody that did this. He had a dual scholarship to Tennessee to play both basketball and baseball. I'm like, I don't know
Jeez.
how you're gonna do it, but so we go through the whole summer negotiations and stuff like that. Like I'm meeting with the team, they're coming out to see us play. We
So
actually
you
go
were
to
still
Finland.
playing at this point, like shoulders hanging on by a thread? Are you still like going out and competing?
I had like this. I don't even know what it was called. It's like a little brace thing that you put on. I think it was for football players because they don't need mobility. But this was the only one that I could have a little mobility, but it would keep it in socket. So, bro, I
Right.
couldn't put this thing on by myself. Like I
Oh
needed another
my.
person to help me put it on. Like that thing was so hard to put on. So I was wearing that. I'm playing games and stuff. Still throwing. I'm torn all the way. And so negotiations and stuff go through, and I think we were down. This is the last week of negotiations, and bro, granted, I had nothing ready for school. Like I committed to Florida International University, but that was like my plan B. Like
Right.
I was always good in school. It wasn't that I was like,
I mean, you're number two
just
prospect in the nation. I mean, that all
yeah, man.
signs
Like
are
I was not. College wasn't my plan A. It was plan B. It was for leverage for me.
Sure.
Like I said, I had good grades and everything, so I got it done in the classroom. But I was ready to play ball. I was ready to start my career. That was my goal since I was 6. And so we get down to the last week, and I have nothing ready. Like I didn't go to orientation. I don't have no laptop. I
No,
don't have
no.
and I'm like, dude, I don't even know what. Dude, I remember sitting on the couch. I was like, God, whatever you want me to do, just let me know. Like I'm tired of thinking about it. I don't want to think about this no more. And after that, stuff just started kind of happening. Like my family member that I never even met was like, "Yeah, I want to get you a laptop for graduation."
Aw.
My sister, she was like, "Look, you gotta start figuring out, your stuff for school." So she calls and she figures out. I get in the last orientation possible. There's no athletes in it. I'm the only athlete at that orientation, and I'm actually down in Miami at orientation the last week of negotiations. And so I get there, and the last day comes, and Mookie hadn't signed yet either. And so obviously that's their 5th round pick. I had ended up getting a call in the 32nd round. And so, 5th round pick, Mookie hadn't signed. They like, look, we got to sign our 5th round guy. So I always say Mookie took all the money that I could have had. I think they made the
Damn,
right choice
Mookie.
though.
Yeah,
But
let us
yeah,
all
so
eat.
he ended up signing. I was like, well, I guess I'm going to college. And so that's how I got to college. Played down here for 4 years. Loved it down here, man. Met my wife down here. Um, had 4 good years. Got a ring out of it. We won conference my senior year. So it went well, and then I got drafted again to Seattle after my senior season. Played with them for a little bit until the GM got fired and they cleaned house. So you know how that go. And then
What
played a little bit. Yeah, man.
what a
Played a little bit of indie
story.
ball. Yeah, bro. It's definitely been a journey. And I played a little bit of indie ball in Illinois, Southern Illinois Miners in the Frontier League. And that was like, my way of getting back into affiliated ball. I was doing well, started off the season really well. First game, I was uh, 4 for 5 with 2 triples, 2 RBIs,
Pretty good.
banging, dude. Yeah, man. So I was like, all right, it's looking up. I was after the first 10 games or so, I was like top 3 and everything. And then on the backswing, shoulder come out again. So I'm like,
Damn.
yeah, this might be it. So I finished out the season. I got an MRI. I was like, yeah, it's torn. I'm like, by this time, it's the 3rd time. Once on my right shoulder, 2 on my left. I'm like, yeah, I'm damaged good at this point. So that was
That's
when,
wild.
yeah, man, that was when I kind of came to terms with it. I'm like, at this point, you kind of paying to play. And the rehab for a second surgery of a labrum is tougher than the first. And I'm like, it might be time. So that's when, I retired, developed ground up, and the rest is kind of history. So it's been a journey
Man,
though.
let's unravel a little bit of that because I think, you know, that is so much to have to deal with. I think any athlete could relate to the amount of work you got to put in, the sacrifice, the
Oh yeah,
just the thousands and thousands and thousands of hours, the moments where you felt doubt but had to persevere, the the people that told you couldn't do it, all of that stuff that you over and then also just being at a pinnacle of, I'm being announced with dudes like Mookie, Francisco Lindor, like I'm there, I'm with these guys competing, like
yeah,
I'm at the top, like I'm
yeah,
here,
man.
right? And then to have this thing happen that it's probably uncontrollable, right? It's I would
Hmm.
say poor luck. I do believe everything
Yeah,
happened for a reason, but that's brutal to have to deal with that
yeah.
adversity. Wait, yeah, give me like one emotion that like you're feeling thinking about that, or what got you through that,
Oh man, I'm oof. Emotion was probably like heartbreak, bro. Like
right?
getting that close to everything that you ever worked for, and kind of having it kind of like pulled off from under you so fast. And for me, it was I would say it was out of ignorance more than anything. Like I didn't know. Like I grew up like my dad never played. I was fortunate. I was blessed enough to be around guys like I always give credit to a lot of my infield development and foundation to Delino DeShields. Me and Delano Jr., we played with each other growing up since we were like 9. And from the time his dad retired, um, I forgot when that was. I was like, oh 03 or something like that. It was like a 3-year span before he got into coaching. And bro, he would just take us out to the park and we would just work. And
Wow.
that's where I developed a lot of my infield skill. And I guess you could say cultivated it. So I was definitely blessed to be around the right people um, to help me, along the path. Nobody does it on their own, but what got me through, honestly, all of that was, I have to say my faith. Just having that unknown and everything, and being grounded in my faith is what kind of got me along the way. But it was hard, man. It was definitely hard, and I guess I've always tried to be the resilient type where you can't make excuses about what happens. You just got to try to figure it out. So I try to do everything I could to get back to where I needed to be, even after everything happened with the draft and my route didn't go the plan that I wanted, but I was still fortunate to play. So I tried to make the best of it.
You could have given up 5, 6, 7 times because of the
Oh yeah,
circumstances, but the fact that you were like, no, we're keeping going. My shoulder's out. It's I just blew it out. No, we'll put something on, strap it up. Let's go. We got a mission,
right.
right? We're still going forward, right? I'm not going backwards. And then to also look at it from a perspective of, dude, I got to play in college. I got 4 years of education. I met my wife. Like,
Oh yeah.
I don't
Oh
know if
yeah.
like who knows if you get drafted, I'm not like I don't know, I can't predict, but I don't know if you meet your wife that you have
Oh
today,
no,
right?
for sure. Definitely probably not.
So right. So I think it completely alters the course of your life. And I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
from just watching and hearing like your excitement of where you're at, like it pretty good turnout, right? Like you're
Oh
doing
yeah,
what you
for
love with
sure.
the people you love, like you win. At the end of the day,
Yeah, man.
a lot of people would envy those two things. So I dude, so much respect for that to be able to get to put in the work to even get there and be in the conversation of a top prospect is insanely hard. To have that all ripped away from you and then persevere. I don't know what else. Like you're good. Like that's life. You're gonna have to do
Yeah,
that again
yeah.
at some point, right?
Yeah, man.
That was so cool to hear that story. Um, Man, I'm just soaking that all in. So now we started ground up from the ground
Mhm.
up. Pun intended. I'm so funny. Uh, Talk to how like that obviously developed because I listen. I want to stay in baseball. I want to coach. I love infield play.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah, so I actually started doing lessons and stuff while I was still playing. It was younger guys or dads around like, where I lived and where I grew up and everything that they wanted me to, kind of work with their kids and stuff like that. So that's how I got introduced into it.
This is Georgia, right,
Um,
Coach?
yeah, this is in Georgia. So I started really training probably my junior year, sophomore year of college. When I would come home, if I had some downtime for the summer, I had a little group of kids that I would work out with. But my first two like consistent clients I got probably that sophomore year, and they were pretty much almost 4 or 5 days a week. They were just with me, and
That's
it's crazy
awesome.
to look back at that because they were 9 at that time, and one of them he actually just signed with the Twins last year.
I
So
think I
it's
just saw that on
nuts
your
to like,
page. That's
yeah,
wild.
man, it's nuts to kind of see that go full circle and everything. So that's when I started training. Um, and then once I was done, that's when I decided to make it a business, and kind of go full go with it. But the name actually came from my lessons. Like I was always telling kids, I'm like, you gotta work from the ground. You gotta work from the ground up. I'm like, you know what? That'd be a kind of cool name. And so I stuck with it and I kind of ran with it. And,
I
that's how I
love
got the
it.
name from it.
All of
Yeah.
us coaches always saying that, right? Oh, we play from the ground up, and you could define that in a
Oh,
couple
yeah.
of different ways, but that's awesome, man. And so you got into like the private sector doing lessons, and it grew from
Hmm.
there. And then where are you at now, right? You're still doing lessons, you're doing groups. Right now, you're in Miami,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So I'm full time now. Like this is what I do for a living. So I've built my
Congratulations.
clientele. Thank you, bro. Thank you. I've built up my clientele where, it can sustain me and, help me support my family. But I also, during the summer, I also coach with, it used to be the Georgia Bombers. over with West Reinders. He just recently went over to TG Diamondback. So me and Johnny Magliozzi, we went with him to TG Diamondback. So this year we'll have the 17U scout team. So that's what I do in the
Awesome.
summer. Yeah, man. So it's fun. I get to still be around the game, both from a training standpoint and the game. Because as a baseball lover, you got to be around the game at some point.
That's so true. I get that it's especially this time every year when
Yeah, spring
preseason
training
starts
kick up.
and spring training
Right.
kicks in. I'm like, I'm on a field every single day and I'm blessed, but I'm like like just thinking about coaching a unit towards a mission to win it with each other,
Yeah.
going through the ups and downs, going to battle. I miss that part a lot. So it's something that I think about often. It's awesome that you keep a little slither, right? You don't need it 12 months
Oh
a
yeah.
year, but 2 to 3 gets you your
Right.
fix,
Right. Right.
keeps you involved, and it
Exactly.
probably networks, right? Opens up other doors for your full-time business. So that's awesome. Talk to me, what are you hot on right now? You work with infielders on a daily basis, and I know we have our principles that stay true, but there's
Mm-hmm.
always some things week to week, month to month, whatever it may be, that we're locked in on a little bit more, whether we're seeing it a lot with kids or conversational with other
Yeah.
coaches.
Yeah. So for me, it's a couple of things. One, definitely being able to like we said earlier, work from the ground up, being able to move low, being able to approach the ball in a good position where you're not going down at the last second. Um, and just efficiency. Like I told my kids, I've said it I feel like 1,000 times already, being efficient. And I think that's kind of a holistic kind of thing where there's glove presentation or angles or efficient steps or whatever it may be, just being overall efficient in all of your movements.
And man, that's probably just a whole philosophy right there, right? The
Yeah,
ability to be efficient. So you said it already, like play lower, right? So I
yeah,
ask our athletes all the time, hey, how do we gain body control? And I don't know, I get some hilarious answers. But all I'm looking to hear is just lower your center of mass, play low. So
right,
you have leverage to react to this game. It's an
exactly.
unpredictable environment. We got to react. So the only way to do so is put yourself in a good position from the ground up. As far as angles, angles are always just like we're gonna always
Invasive.
have to teach those, right? Like that's just an
Right,
art. That's your ability. It's like your rhythm and feel for the velocity of the ball, your ability to
mm-hmm.
close the gap, and then also what tools do you have? Like as far as your hands, like can your hands play in versatile lanes? Can you break your hands in sequence? Can you throw on the run? Like there's a lot.
Right,
Like
right, right.
that's why it seems so easy, catch the ball and throw the ball, but it is an art. It's difficult, it's challenging. So talk to me, like what are some things, maybe what are some of your favorite, whether it's cues or drills to work on angles, to work on your approach to the ball?
Yeah. One of my favorite things is I call it the X. Setting the kids up, I'll put a cone in the middle and then I'll shoot two cones back, two cones forward. And then I'll either put a cone or I'll make a straight line, just straight across from where they're standing. And I tell them, mainly speaking for middle guys, I know corner guys, it could be a little different. I tell them stay out of the flats. Like as a shortstop, you very rarely you're gonna be running straight across left or right. I say even if you take a step forward, half a step forward, that's still an angle. And I try to teach them like, look, if I get to a ball by running straight across to it and I wait on it, you could have cut it down. Or if you're having a hard time getting to a ball, or you're diving at a ball that's straight across, you could have took a deeper angle and catch it on your feet. So really just getting them to visualize, okay, even if I take a step forward, half a step forward, 2 steps forward, or 2 steps back, that's still playing on an angle. Like nothing is really benefiting you staying in that same line of where you're at. And so just trying to get them to understand the concept of it. And like you said, there's so many different variables that go into angles. They kind of develop, their own sense of what their routes may look like or what angles they may take. Because I'm very anti cookie cutter. I don't think baseball is a sport at all, any aspect where one person does something the exact same. And so I try to stay away from the cookie cutter method, or saying something is right or wrong. I just ask them, was that efficient? Could that have been more efficient? And then it puts them in a realm of, problem solving. Like, I don't know, was it? What could I do to better that? Because if you start saying right or wrong, it puts kids in a box, and it
Yes.
takes away from who they are as a player. It's like they just trying to do what I told them to do, and it's like, oh, that's right, that's wrong. It's like, no, was it efficient? Like, yes. Okay, can we make it more efficient? Or no, what can we do to make it more efficient? So I try to stay in the realm of creating unique ball players, giving them nuggets where they can take it, but they're not me, I'm not them. So I try to always remember that when training.
And that's amazing. I think we try and always express creative application on the field, right? Like this game, it's you, it's your story, right? Like go create it in ways that make sense and resonate with you. And that's
Right,
on a
right.
macro level, right? But like if we're gonna get to a more nuanced perspective of angles, I love that cookie cutterness. I think a cookie cutter comes from a place of ignorance. Like you just don't really
100%.
know any other way to coach, and if you
Right.
don't like, so it's your insecurity to have to coach outside of what you know, and you'll express that as a confine for a kid to have to stay
Mhm.
in because that's all
Mhm.
you could offer them. And if
Yeah.
that's the case, you got to either do a better job and learn more, or
Right.
don't coach. So
Right. Right.
that's
Right.
one aspect of it that I love. But there's a lot of coaches like that, and kids are now just like, nope, I coach have to do this, and I'm like, okay. And I'm the same way with you, man. Like I don't want to tell you how to do your thing, but I'm gonna do the way you did it. I'm gonna do the way we can do it, and I'm gonna ask you what you think is more efficient. If you think the
Right.
way that you did it isn't gonna work, let's go. Let's figure out a way to do it. So I
Right.
love
Right. Right.
I love that, man. That's such a great subtle way to put we're building, we're developing. Let's keep moving forward. You know what I mean? So what are so the X is beautiful. That's something that's been around since time, and it's
Mhm.
so to this day it's so important. We use the and I want to get back to like the flats. I love that analogy right there for the viewers. If you think you're in a drone 10 feet above me at shortstop, and I'm standing in the center of a massive X. Right, Coach
Mhm.
Julius, you're just saying to my right and left through that to make like an asterisk sign. He's saying stay
Yeah.
out of there. And listen, like you said, there's so many different plays. I think the only play for that maybe is a ball hit with, velocity of the ball is high,
Right.
the speed of the runner is high, and you just got to get to
Right.
the ball. It's more of an on the run type lane.
Yeah.
And that's me like trying hard to justify that, right? Like,
Right. Right. Right.
but when you say that, because we work on lanes right, left, depending on speed, but in reality, we get to that spot and work back through. It's not a straight line. It's
Exactly.
so that's a really cool little analogy. I love that. Um, so what are some things? What are some things that youth infielders are like? What's a glaring thing you're seeing youth infielders, whether it be middle school, high school, some college, that they're struggling with? Like we're like, damn, I'm teaching in multiple ways pretty well, but it's still something we're gonna have to work on for a little while.
I think understanding the concept of rhythm. Um, I feel like most kids don't even know like what that is. They've heard it, somebody said it, but they really don't understand what rhythm is. And a simple way that I break it down is timing plus tempo. The timing side of it is when is my left foot hitting the ground and when is the ball hitting my glove. If it happens right after each other, and I continue in my same movement without slowing down or changing speed, then I have good timing. The tempo side of it is okay. What speed are you going at? Are you taking off running, then almost stopping and trying to create it again, or does it look like a wave? Is it consistent all the way to the play's over? So like I would say a lot of kids don't know how to have rhythm and sync up their hands with it, hands and feet. Hands and feet work together. I say that all the time. So if my hands are moving faster than my feet, likely I'm gonna have to either add another shuffle, or I'm gonna have to speed up my feet, and now I'm rushing my throw, and it just kind of trickles down from there. So just getting kids to understand the concept of rhythm and how to move with their feet, how to use their hands, and if my feet are really working, my hands don't have to do a whole lot. If my feet aren't working, my hands got to work overtime. And if you don't have either, you probably need to go to the outfield.
You're probably playing outfield, or that's facts.
Exactly.
That's facts. So in rhythm and timing, a lot of coaches in the past have just been, hey, dance with the ball, get in sync with the ball, and that's what
Yeah, they
you're
don't explain it.
saying. That's what you're
Right.
saying. But I think how we listen to music via audio, right? Our ears. I think
Mm-hmm.
infield play, we listen through our eyes, right? Like our eyes see the beat, the lyrics, the information,
Yeah, I
speed,
like that.
shape, and then our hands and feet are only going on what our eyes are telling them, because your eyes are your brain's way to see your external environment. So now you're
Right.
vibing up here, which organizes the rest of your body movements, or doesn't. So I think, like, if you start to think about like dance with the ball, it's eyes, feet, hands, and then we'll figure it
Right.
out from there. Which category isn't dancing with the other? I love
Mm-hmm.
the just rhythm and timing, all that stuff. Man, that there's a whole nother episode on that. So what does a normal session look like for you? Like day one, I come to you, we're training. What are some things you're gonna marvel at?
So mainly I say, like, if I'm meeting a new client, I'll always, first thing we do after we throw and get loose is I'll hit them 5 ground balls. So usually I can see whatever I need to see in those ground balls and hit them a couple right at them, one to their left, one or two to their right, and from there it's just seeing, I guess you could say, seeing that canvas, seeing what we need to work on, what we need to focus on. And then from there I usually I call it the T work of infielding, which is, I love knee picks. Just isolating
Yeah,
their hands for a little bit. One of the things that I see in not even just kids, man, like I've had college guys that have come to me for the first time, and is curling their wrist and bending their elbow, both of which takes your glove and the ball up. Where it's like I'm trying to work either through a ball or receive it back. It's very rarely are we going up with our glove, and so just teaching them, one of the cues I use is fingers down. Present the pocket. If I can't see your entire pocket, the ball can't go in it. Teaching them the sweet spot, where we want to and how to work through a ball. It's like we say these things as coaches, but we don't explain it, and so you leave it up for only interpretation. And if kids
that's a
and
scary
athletes were
movie.
just
That's a
good
scary
for
movie.
yeah, they wouldn't need us. And so it's like I try to be real detailed on teaching. Okay, how do I do this, or why do you do that? Kind of putting the ball in their court. I ask a lot of questions. Because at the end of the day, kids, I don't want kids to listen to me, and do what I say do just because I say it. It's like I want you to understand it. Because at the end of the day, like, my playing career is over. Like, it's your career. So if you don't understand what you're doing, you shouldn't be doing it. And so I pick their brain. I want to know. I try to engage them because I think it has a little bit to do with our culture, where the game is. We're satisfied with just coming and doing, instead of like, no, like I'm working on my skills. I'm cultivating who I am as a ball player, but that takes like effort. Like, you got to understand what you're doing. And so I'm really big on engaging kids. And so I ask a lot of questions. But yeah, we'll do our knee picks. If they have a issue with receiving, we'll go funnel. Then I was a funnel guy, but I don't think funneling is the only way. Like, you got some guys who's more comfortable with a partial or leaving it out.
Right.
I will go ahead and say this now, and some people might disagree, but that's okay. I'm anti push through with two hands. I don't see the point in pushing through a ground ball with two hands, because it cuts off your reach if I'm trying to go get a hop. And if I get to the hop with my feet, why am I pushing through it?
Let's
So
unpack that,
outside of
coach. This is the stuff that fires me up.
yeah,
If I and back to the point, like, we're flexible coaches, you have to be, because we know
right,
we're coaching is coaching the same thing 30 different ways, right? So
right.
the only thing I'll say, I like, if a kid does it, I'll actually just, I'll explain why. But
Mm-hmm.
if they start throwing with their elbow on their left hand supporting their right elbow, and they're flicking the ball, I have a problem with that. So I'd
Yeah.
let them know why I think that could hurt them and lead to bad pathways. But as far
Hmm.
I love funnel is funnel. Some kids are really good at it. Some kids aren't really good at it. If they're not really good at
Right.
it, I'll explain where they're getting stuck and it's disrupting their throw. And then I'll ask them
Right.
if that's where they want to be. No, all right, let's work on something different. But
Right.
the two hand press through, that's a cool, like, I know exactly obviously what you're talking about, but I haven't heard the debate on that. But
Hmm.
I'm team ground up on that. Like if we're gonna go, if there's shape to the ball and we're going to kill that last hop, this is a
Yeah.
ball where I want as much athleticism and freedom of range as I
Hmm.
can, right? Because you got to get
Right.
creative with this transfer. Whereas if I got two hands, some kids are, I think the older guys who can control their body are good at killing that ball off the earth. And that's
Oh
a
yeah.
difference that's just hard to
Right.
do for, you know what
Right.
I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Like that's
Right.
the hardest thing to do. We're not going to start there with the youth, but I'd
No.
agree. I'd agree. If anything, I'm absorbing that ball, so my eyes could watch it in a little longer. To like,
Right.
I'm gonna take that ball to my middle versus pressing
Right.
through. Because I don't. Even if you think about the angle where your hands are gonna press through, they're not gonna go to the target. They're going back to where the ball came from, which isn't where you're
Exactly.
going.
Exactly. Exactly. And I feel like, granted, like I'm one hand, yeah, push through, go get it. You got reach, you got to get to that hop because your feet didn't get you there.
Right.
So I got to finish it with getting that one hand out and finishing the job. But if my feet get me there, I'm receiving that. It's
Yes.
like I said, it might not be a full funnel like all guys, but it's still some give there. I'm still receiving and I'm getting into my throwing slide. It's just I feel like pushing through with two hands, what you were saying, like I'm not even really going straight to the ball like where it's coming from, because then I don't have anything going towards my target. I got to change direction. And even if I do, pushing through with two hands, that's taking everything away from my slot. And so it's just for me, it's not efficient. Are you gonna have some guys that still do it? Yeah. And it's gonna work for some guys, but for me, I don't teach it because I don't believe it's efficient.
When you, we're on the same page with that. I was a huge funneler in college. My whole entire life, I funneled. I coached
Me
funnel
too.
until I learned a little more, and I was just, I saw it didn't work for everybody. But when you think of funnel, what's the first thing you think of as far as fielding a ball? Like what do you visualize doing when someone says
um,
funnel?
uh, giving, like the contact.
Okay,
I think where a lot of people get lost is
thank you.
they start their funnel before they actually make contact with the ball. And whether you funnel or not, your contact point stays the same. So for me, I'm big on visuals too. I think I was a bit of a visual learner. So that's a lot of how I teach as well. But I give the example, like if we're in a cage and you got a net versus a brick wall. Like if I throw it against this net, it's gonna give a little bit. If I throw it against this brick wall, it's hard. Like it's gonna bounce off. It's
Love
stiff.
that.
It's no give. And we gotta get after we catch a ground ball, we gotta get to the throw. So that's already taking me to that slot. And for a funnel guy, I go from my left to my middle to my right. That's a straight line to where I need to go. It flows. Everything's fluid.
I love that, and I think the word I like to say is like give or absorb, because I think funnel has this visualization of taking the ball to my belt.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the and I'm
Yeah.
like, yo, we're all saying the same thing. I think it's just one's expressed differently because of the cue. That's and
Mm-hmm.
I'm very sensitive to that because I train athletes in the gym in the weight room, and how you cue athletic movements and a deadlift and a
It's
squat is
big.
very
Yeah.
impactful. It has a lot of influence. So I just like to hear different perspectives on that. I'm like, oh, I think we're all saying the same thing. I think we appreciate
Yeah.
what the funnel does. I just
Yeah.
can we say something different because we have seven F's
Yeah.
and that's an F word? Can we say
Right.
a different? You know what I mean? But that's just funny. Oh,
Absorb, I think, is the go to. Because you hear absorb, you don't think fast, you don't think it's big. It's just like I'm kind of absorbing something.
yeah, like it's what we want. It's just it's rhythmic. It's I don't know.
Right.
It's graceful. So yeah, I love to play. That's all. I love getting people's perspective on that. That's awesome. And let's start to wrap it up a little bit. I think one thing I want to hear from you real quick is you're on the circuit all summer, right? So you're seeing 17, 18U. Has
Yeah.
anything changed? Are you seeing anything different? Are you seeing a lack or
Oh yeah,
improvement?
man. 100%. I think one thing I had to kind of catch myself on is trying to compare kids. It's a different time. Like the same thing we say about kids today, somebody was saying about us when we was
I
playing.
bet it's
So
so. I bet.
I try to stay away from that because I'm like, bro, the game even though the game itself, the core of it stays the same, the way, the energy that it's played with, it's different. It changes, it evolves. But I would say the biggest difference is, I don't know, man. I feel like when I was coming up, it was more of like I didn't like the guy on the other side. Like we were going at it. Like it was
They were,
competing. It's like
yes,
now it's we get to a park and you playing another kid that's ranked and they like, oh, that's so and so. And it's like, man, yeah, he's this. I'm like, bro, I didn't care who was on the other side. Like, regardless of who I'm like, I'm better than you. Like, I'm gonna outplay you. Like, with this war. Like, it's ain't we can be cool. Even like the guys you grew up with, your boys. It's like, yeah, we can talk. We talking trash during the game. Like, we're at each other after the
yes,
game. Dap it up. We cool, good game, whatever. But I didn't like you while I was playing against you. And that's just different for me. Like, I'm not a huge fan of, I don't even know how to word it, where it's like just being in awe of a guy that you're competing against. Like you can respect him. You're like, yeah, he can
sure.
ball, but like I'm not in awe of you.
Wow, it's so evident. It's so evident. I'm trying not to be the guy who's like, oh, just a modern day athlete, because I'm not even about that. But it comes
Right,
down to
right.
competing. Like you put in
Yeah,
all
man.
this work because you go to battle and you expect the outcome, right? Like when I'm in
100%.
battle, we ain't dapping it up. We ain't taking pictures for the
No,
gram. We ain't. No, I'm not like
no.
fanboying over a kid I never met
Yeah,
before,
that's the
and
word. Fanboy. It's a
I'm
lot.
not doing that. Like, no, I'm
Yeah.
busy. I'm busy. So I love that
Right, right,
part of
right.
it. I think that competitive side, like between the lines, I don't like you.
Right.
After we're boys again. We're boys again.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
I'm trying to win. Make it no mistake. I'm trying to win. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I think we're missing a little bit of that in the DNA, but I don't know. It's just it is different. It's definitely
Yeah. And I
different.
think I think and who's to say I probably would be kind of in the same boat if social media was what it
Probably.
was when
I
we were
mean,
playing, because you get so much gratification like as a kid, man, and you can't handle that honestly. You haven't done
it's a
anything, so you
lot.
don't
A
know.
lot.
And I'm talking about like you talking about I'm a 17-year-old kid and I got 80,000 followers. Like everybody hyping
I'm
me up.
kind of
I'm
a
getting
big
these
deal.
right, man. So it's like in a sense I can't fault them for it. Social media, I think it's definitely in its lane. It's definitely could be beneficial and a blessing.
Sure.
I think if it's not used in a proper context, it can get very detrimental to a kid and a kid's development because they feel like they've arrived a little bit. And if you play this game, you really never arrived. Like you can look back and look at your accomplishments and be proud of them, but it's so much depth to this game, man. It's such a tough game, and there's so many guys out there that can play it at a high level. I feel like you start feeling yourself a little too much. You lose it. You lose that edge. You lose that place in the race where it's like I'm continuing to push. I'm continuing to drive. And I think in this day and time, when you get a kid like that, it's special because they got so much to deal with that we didn't. And it's definitely something out there, man. I've come across some kids where I'm like, I like the way they play the game, man. Like
Yeah.
it's still business for them. They having fun, they got their flair. They still might have their big following, but they get it. They understand, like, look, like I'm not the only guy out here. There's somebody out here that's coming for me. There's somebody out there that I'm trying to come for. So it never stops, man. It's never ending.
And I love that. And it's not like, hey, we're competing. We're not being rude to nobody. We respect the game. We respect the competitor,
Right.
but we're competing to win.
Right.
And I love that. I think some kids humans, adults get caught up in an ideal. They only look at an
Oh yeah.
ideal, what's forward, right? Like instead of like looking like what you've achieved up until that point, and everyone wants materialistic things. But just keep looking at what you did today to get you to tomorrow is probably a more sustainable way for you to have success. And social media, like you said, man, I think think it just is a microphone for like, it exacerbates what you're about. So like if you're being
Right.
flashy and this, that, it might just exacerbate that. If you're doing your thing and you're getting recognized, cool, but you're still doing your thing and you don't need that validation.
Yeah.
It's different. It's tough. It's definitely a little delicate balance, but, man, Coach, I appreciate your time. That was awesome. I can't wait to listen back to this. Before we go, can you please just let our listeners know where they can find you and your content, what you got going on?
Oh yeah, man. You can find me on Instagram at ground_up_baseball, Twitter, ground_up_BSB. Facebook, you can find me under, my full name, Julius Gaines. TikTok, still ground up. But
No
yeah,
doubt.
man, I'm here. I'm here for the people. I appreciate you having me out. I love
Of
talking
course.
infield, man.
Of course.
Like you said, it's a small knit community, so it's fun to get on and talk to somebody, that know their stuff. So I enjoyed it. Appreciate you.
No doubt, Coach. I appreciate you. Have a good one, and we'll definitely have you back on soon.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.